Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony, looking out at the empty space around them. The stars looked the same as always, but today felt different. Today would change everything for humans and aliens alike. "Captain, we're getting a message from the Zeltharian Empire," said Communications Officer Ben Carter. His voice was tense. Everyone knew that humans and Zeltharians had been enemies for 20 years. They had never fought a real war, but both sides kept their weapons ready. Jake walked over to Ben's station. "Put it on the main screen." The screen flickered, then showed a tall reptilian creature. Its skin was green and scaled, and its eyes were yellow like a snake's. This was Ambassador Kethrol, the voice of the Zeltharian Empire. "Human Captain," the alien said through the translator. "My Emperor has decided to offer you something. We want peace between our peoples. We offer a marriage alliance." Jake felt his heart skip a beat. A marriage alliance meant one of their people would marry one of his people. It was an old way to make peace, but it still worked sometimes. Who would be involved in this alliance? Jake asked. "Princess Lyrith, third daughter of Emperor Vextar. She will marry a human leader. You, Captain Morrison, have been chosen." Jake's mouth went dry. Him? Marry an alien princess? He had never even seen a Zeltharian female before. "I need time to think about this," Jake said. "You have 1 day." Kethrol replied. "If you refuse, the Korthak Empire will attack both our peoples. They are coming with a large fleet. Together we might stop them. Apart we will both die." The screen went black. Jake stood there, trying to understand what had just happened. In 1 day he had to decide if he would marry an alien to save 2 entire species. "Amy, come to my office," Jake called to Lieutenant Amy Rodriguez, the ship's expert on alien life. She knew more about other species than anyone else on the ship. Amy was a small woman with dark hair and smart eyes. She had studied aliens for 10 years and could speak several alien languages without a translator. "Captain, I heard the message," Amy said as she sat down. "This is very unusual. Zeltharians never make alliances with other species." "Tell me what you know about them," Jake said. Amy pulled up files on her tablet. "They're reptilian like Earth. Lizards but much bigger. They're strong and fast. Their females are usually larger than their males, but they keep their women hidden from other species." "What about their culture?" Amy's face became worried. "That's where it gets strange, Captain. Our intelligence reports say some disturbing things about how they treat their mates." "What kind of things?" "Well, some reports suggest that in their culture, the stronger partner consumes the weaker one during mating season. It's supposed to be some kind of bonding ritual." Jake felt sick. "You mean they eat each other?" "The reports aren't clear. It might be symbolic or it might be real. We don't have enough information." Jake rubbed his forehead. He was being asked to marry someone from a species that might eat their mates. But if he said no, both humans and Zeltharians would be destroyed by the Korthak Empire. The next day, Jake stood in the ship's main meeting room. The walls were decorated with flags from Earth, American, European, Asian, and African flags all hanging together. It was supposed to show that humans were united. The Zeltharian ship appeared outside the window. It was long and dark, covered in sharp spikes. It looked like a weapon, not a diplomatic vessel. "They're sending a shuttle," Ben reported. 3 passengers. Jake watched the shuttle dock with his ship. Through the security cameras, he saw 3 Zeltharians step out. 2 were large males in armor. Between them walked a much smaller figure, covered in a long white robe. "That must be the princess," Amy whispered. Jake could barely see the princess's face under her hood, but he noticed she was shaking. Her whole body trembled as the guards led her through the ship's corridors. When they reached the meeting room, Ambassador Kethrol entered first. Behind him came the 2 guards, and between them the princess. "Captain Morrison," Kethrol said formally, "I present Princess Lyrith of the Imperial House." The guard stepped aside and Jake got his first clear look at his future wife. She was much smaller than he had expected, probably only 5 feet tall. Her skin was pale green with silver markings and her eyes were large and purple. She was actually quite beautiful in an alien way, but what struck Jake most was the fear in her eyes. She looked at him like he was a monster about to devour her. Her hands shook so badly she could barely hold the ceremonial scroll she carried. "The marriage contract," Kethrol explained, taking the scroll from the princess. "Sign this and our peoples will be allies." Jake took the scroll, but he couldn't stop looking at Princess Lyrith. She was terrified of him. Why? He had never hurt anyone who didn't deserve it. He tried to smile at her, but she just shook harder. "Princess," Jake said gently, "don't be afraid. I won't hurt you." But his words seemed to make her more scared. She stepped back and whispered something in her own language. The translator couldn't pick it up, but Amy was listening carefully. "What did she say?" Jake asked Amy quietly. Amy's face went pale. "She said, 'Please make it quick. Captain, I think she believes you're going to kill her.'" Jake felt his heart break a little. This beautiful, terrified creature thought he was a monster. He realized that whatever intelligence the Zeltharians had about humans, it was very, very wrong. He signed the contract with a heavy heart. As he handed it back to Kethrol, he made a silent promise. He would show Princess Lyrith that humans weren't monsters. He would prove that they could be gentle and kind, but first he had to figure out why she was so afraid of him. As the ceremony ended and the princess was officially given to him, Jake noticed she closed her eyes and whispered what sounded like prayers. He didn't need a translator to understand. She was saying goodbye to her life. Jake knew this marriage would be unlike anything he had ever imagined. He wasn't just marrying an alien princess. He was trying to save two species from war, and one terrified woman from her own fears. The real work was just beginning. Jake Morrison watched as Princess Lyrith was led to his quarters. She walked like someone going to her execution, taking small, careful steps. Her purple eyes darted around the hallway, looking for escape routes that didn't exist. "Your quarters have been prepared for both of you," Amy Rodriguez said quietly. "I've made sure the air mixture is right for her species and the temperature is set to what Zeltharians prefer." "Thank you, Amy," Jake replied, but his mind was on other things. Why was the princess so afraid? He had tried to be gentle during the ceremony, but every time he moved, she flinched. Jake opened the door to his quarters and stepped aside to let Lyrith enter first. She hesitated at the doorway, looking into the room like it was a trap. Finally, she stepped inside and immediately moved to the far corner, as far from Jake as possible. The room was larger than most ship quarters, with a bed, a desk, chairs, and a small kitchen area. Jake had tried to make it welcoming by adding some plants and pictures of Earth, but Lyrith didn't seem to notice any of that. She just pressed herself against the wall and watched him. "Are you hungry?" Jake asked, pointing to the kitchen. "I have food that should be safe for you to eat." Lyrith's eyes went wide with terror. She shook her head quickly and whispered something, in her language. This time the room's translator picked it up. "No, please, I am not ready yet. Please give me more time." Jake was confused. Not ready for what? Food? He tried a different approach. "Would you like some water? You must be thirsty after the long journey." Again, Lyrith shook her head and pressed herself harder against the wall. Jake was starting to get frustrated. He was trying to be nice, but everything he said seemed to scare her more. He decided to leave her alone for a while. "I'll be on the bridge if you need anything," he said. "The computer will call me if you speak to it." As Jake left the room, he heard Lyrith whisper again. This time the translator caught it clearly. "Oh, merciful gods, let it be quick when he returns." Jake stopped in the hallway. Let what be quick? What did she think he was going to do to her? He found Amy in the science lab, working on her computer. "Amy, I need you to look into something. Check our intelligence files about human culture. See what information the Zeltharians might have about us." "What kind of information?" Amy asked. "Anything about how humans treat their mates, or how we behave in relationships. The princess is terrified of me, and I can't figure out why." Amy's fingers flew over the keyboard. "I'm accessing the Zeltharian ship's computers through our diplomatic link. They've been very open with their cultural exchange data." "Oh no. What is it?" Amy's face went white. "Captain, look at this. These are Zeltharian intelligence reports about human mating customs." Jake read over her shoulder. The files were full of misunderstood information about humans. They had taken human expressions literally. Phrases like, "I could eat you up and you look good enough to eat," were listed as evidence of human cannibalistic mating rituals. Even worse, the reports included human literature and movies that the Zeltharians had analyzed. They had found stories about vampires, werewolves, and other creatures that consumed their mates. To the alien researchers, these weren't fiction. They were documentary evidence of human behavior. "There's more," Amy said, scrolling down. "They think human courtship involves stalking and hunting. They've misunderstood human romantic movies as training films for predatory behavior." Jake felt sick. "So Princess Lyrith thinks I'm going to hunt her down and eat her?" "It gets worse. According to this, Zeltharians believe that human males consume their mates slowly, over several days, to make the experience last longer. They think it's a bonding ritual where the female becomes part of the male." Jake sat down heavily in a chair. No wonder the princess was terrified. She thought she had been given to a monster who would torture her before eating her alive. "We have to fix this," Jake said. "But how do I convince her that we don't eat our mates when everything her people have told her says we do?" "Actions speak louder than words," Amy suggested. "Show her that you're not a predator. Prove that humans can be gentle and caring." Jake returned to his quarters with a new plan. He would show Princess Lyrith through his behavior that humans weren't monsters. But when he opened the door, he found her in the same corner, now sitting on the floor with her knees pulled up to her chest. She had been crying. Her face was wet with tears, and her whole body was shaking with fear. "Princess," Jake said softly, staying near the door so she wouldn't feel trapped, "I want you to know that I will never hurt you." Lyrith looked up at him with those large purple eyes. "The reports say your kind speaks kindly before the hunt begins. You make your prey feel safe before you strike." Jake's heart broke. Even his attempts to comfort her were seen as predatory behavior. He needed a different approach. He sat down on the floor near the door, making himself smaller and less threatening. "I know what your people think about humans," he said. "I know they told you we eat our mates, but it's not true." "Then why do your stories speak of consuming those you love?" Lyrith asked. "Why do your people say I could eat you up to their children?" Jake realized she had been studying human culture, trying to understand what would happen to her. "Those are just expressions," he explained. "We don't mean them literally. When a human says, 'I could eat you up' to a child, it means they love the child so much they want to hug them tight." Lyrith looked confused. "Your language is very strange." "I know it seems that way, but let me show you something." Jake pulled out his personal tablet and showed her pictures of his sister's family. "This is my niece, Katie. She's 5 years old. When I see her, I sometimes say, 'I could eat you up because you're so cute.' But look, here she is now, perfectly safe and happy." Lyrith studied the pictures carefully. "She is not consumed? Not at all. She's healthy and loved. When humans care about someone, we protect them. We don't hurt them." For the first time since arriving on the ship, Lyrith seemed to relax a tiny bit, but Jake could see she was still very afraid. "I understand this is confusing," Jake continued. "Your people got the wrong information about us, but I promise you, I will never hurt you, I will never force you to do anything. And I will definitely never try to eat you." Lyrith was quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke. "If you do not consume your mates, then what do you do with them?" Jake smiled. "We love them. We take care of them. We try to make them happy and keep them safe. We share our lives with them. And when you no longer want them, if a human relationship ends, both people just go their separate ways. Nobody gets hurt or eaten. They just stop living together." Lyrith seemed to be thinking hard about this. "This is very different from what we were told." "I know, and I understand why you're scared. But I want to prove to you that humans can be trusted. Will you let me try?" Lyrith was quiet for another long moment. Then she nodded slightly. "I will watch your actions, but I will remain careful." "That's fair," Jake said. "Being careful is smart, but I hope that in time you'll see that you don't need to be afraid of me." As Jake prepared for bed that night, he set up a sleeping bag on the floor. The princess could have the bed. He wanted her to feel as safe and comfortable as possible. It would take time to overcome years of misunderstanding and fear. But Jake was patient. He had to be. The future of two species depended on showing one terrified princess that humans weren't the monsters she believed them to be. Tomorrow, he would start proving that love was stronger than fear, and understanding was more powerful than prejudice. Jake Morrison woke up on the hard floor of his quarters, his back aching from sleeping on metal. He looked across the room and saw Princess Lyrith still huddled in the corner where she had spent the night. She hadn't moved to the bed, even though he had offered it to her. Her purple eyes were open, watching him carefully. She looked like she hadn't slept at all. "Good morning, Princess," Jake said softly, sitting up slowly so he wouldn't startle her. "Did you rest at all?" Lyrith shook her head. "I must stay alert. The hunting could begin at any moment." Jake sighed. She still believed he was going to hurt her. This was going to be harder than he thought. "I'm going to get some breakfast," Jake said, standing up carefully. "Would you like something to eat?" The moment he mentioned food, Lyrith pressed herself harder against the wall. Her breathing became fast and shallow, like she was about to panic. "No," she whispered. "If I eat, I will taste better when you consume me. I have read your reports. Well-fed prey is preferred." Jake felt terrible. Even offering her food made her think about being eaten. He realized that every normal human action looked threatening to her. "Princess, I'm going to eat some cereal and drink coffee. Normal human food. Would you like to watch? Maybe it will help you understand." Lyrith nodded slightly, so Jake moved to the small kitchen area. He made sure to move slowly and explain everything he was doing. "This is cereal," he said, holding up the box. "It's made from grains that grow on Earth, and this is milk from earth animals called cows." He poured the cereal into a bowl and added milk. Lyrith watched with intense interest as Jake ate his breakfast. She seemed surprised that he was eating plant and animal products instead of meat. "You do not eat flesh in the morning?" she asked. "Humans eat meat sometimes, but not every day, and never the flesh of intelligent beings. We eat animals that aren't smart, like chickens and cows." "But your reports speak of consuming intelligent prey." Jake shook his head. "Those reports are wrong. Humans protect intelligent life. We have laws against hurting other thinking beings." After breakfast, Jake had to go to the bridge for his daily duties. "I'll be back this afternoon," he told Lyrith. "There's food in the kitchen that's safe for your species. Please eat something." But when Jake returned several hours later, the food was untouched. Lyrith was still in her corner, and she looked weaker than before. Jake called Dr. Lisa Park to his quarters. Lisa was the ship's chief medical officer, a kind woman with gray hair and gentle hands. "Captain, she's dehydrated and malnourished," Lisa said after examining Lyrith from a distance. "The princess wouldn't let anyone touch her. If she doesn't eat and drink soon, she could become very sick. She's afraid that eating will make her taste better when I supposedly eat her," Jake explained. Dr. Park looked shocked. "She thinks you're going to eat her. No wonder she's terrified. Captain, you need to show her that humans are gentle creatures. Maybe start with small acts of kindness." That evening, Jake tried a new approach. He brought a small wounded bird into his quarters. One of the ship's maintenance crew had found it in the loading bay with a broken wing. "This little bird is hurt," Jake told Lyrith, sitting on the floor with the bird in a small box. "I'm going to help it get better." Lyrith watched with fascination as Jake carefully cleaned the bird's wing and wrapped it with soft bandages. His hands were gentle and patient as he worked. "On your world, what would happen to a hurt animal?" Jake asked. "The strong would eat the weak," Lyrith replied. "It is the natural way." "On Earth, we often help injured creatures," Jake said, giving the bird some water with a tiny dropper. "We have hospitals for animals and people whose job is to heal them." Lyrith seemed confused by this idea. "But why? If you are not going to eat them, why spend energy helping them?" "Because causing pain is wrong. Helping others makes us feel good. It's what good people do." Over the next few days, Jake continued Caring for the bird. Lyrith watched every time he fed it, cleaned its cage, or changed its bandages. She began to see that Jake's hands could be gentle and healing, not just dangerous. The creature trusts you, Lyrith observed one day. Animals can sense when someone means them harm, Jake explained. This bird knows I want to help it, not hurt it. Slowly, Lyrith began to move around the room more. She would go to the bathroom when Jake wasn't looking, and sometimes she would stand by the window to look at the stars. But she still wouldn't eat or drink anything. Jake was getting worried. Dr. Park said Lyrith could only survive a few more days without food and water. One evening, Jake was playing soft earth music on his tablet, gentle piano melodies that reminded him of home. He noticed Lyrith listening with interest. "Do you like music?" he asked. "This sound is peaceful," she admitted. "Zeltharian music is very different. Ours is loud and aggressive, meant to show strength. Human music can be many things. Some is loud and aggressive too, but some is meant to be calming and beautiful." Jake played more gentle songs, lullabies, nature sounds, and soft instrumental pieces. For the first time since arriving on the ship, Lyrith seemed to relax a little. "On Earth, mothers sing to their babies to help them sleep," Jake explained. "Music is one way we show love and care." "Your species is very strange," Lyrith said, but she didn't sound afraid anymore. She sounded curious. The breakthrough came on the fourth day. Jake was feeding the injured bird when Lyrith suddenly spoke up. "I am very thirsty," she whispered. Jake's heart jumped with hope, but he tried to stay calm. "There's water in the kitchen. Would you like me to get you some?" Lyrith hesitated, then nodded. Jake brought her a glass of water, making sure to keep his distance so she wouldn't feel threatened. Lyrith took the glass with shaking hands and drank deeply. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're welcome." "Are you hungry too?" Lyrith looked at the bird, then at Jake's gentle hands. Perhaps I could try a small amount of food." Jake prepared a simple meal of fruits and vegetables that were safe for Zeltharians. As Lyrith ate, she kept watching him carefully, but the fear in her eyes was beginning to fade. "Jake," she said, using his name for the first time. "Your hands are very gentle with the small creature. Are all humans like this?" "Many are," Jake replied. "We're taught from childhood to be kind to those who are smaller or weaker than us. Protecting others is considered honorable. This is the opposite of what our intelligence reports claimed." Jake smiled sadly. "Your people got very wrong information about us, but I understand why you believed it. If I had been told that aliens eat their mates, I would be scared too." That night, Lyrith finally moved from her corner. She sat in a chair at the small table while Jake sat across from her. The distance between them felt less frightening now. "I have been thinking," Lyrith said. "If humans truly wanted to harm other species, why would you agree to this marriage alliance? You could have simply refused and fought the Korthax alone." "Because working together is better than fighting alone," Jake explained. "And because we don't want any species to be destroyed, including yours." Lyrith was quiet for a long moment. I think I have been very foolish." "Not foolish. You were scared because of bad information. That's not your fault." "Will you tell me more about human customs? I want to understand how your people really live." Jake smiled. This was the first time she had asked him a question without fear in her voice. "I'd be happy to. We have a lot to learn about each other." As they talked into the night, Jake could see the fear leaving Lyrith's eyes, replaced by curiosity and the beginning of trust. The wounded bird chirped softly from its cage, a small symbol of hope and healing. For the first time since this whole situation began, Jake felt like they might actually have a chance at making this work. Princess Lyrith was different now. Instead of cowering in the corner, she sat at the table across from Jake Morrison, asking questions about human culture. Her purple eyes still held some caution, but the terror was gone. "So when humans say they love someone, they do not mean they want to consume them?" she asked, sipping water from her glass. "Not at all," Jake replied. "Love means we want to protect them, care for them, and make them happy. We want to spend our lives with them." Lyrith nodded thoughtfully. "This is very different from Zeltharian ways." We show affection through displays of strength and dominance. Jake was learning about her people too. Zeltharians were not the simple, aggressive species that human intelligence had described. They were complex, with their own art, philosophy, and traditions. Lyrith, Jake said carefully, can I ask you something personal? She tensed slightly but nodded. What do you wish to know? Your father chose you for this marriage alliance. In your culture, what does that mean? Are you being punished? Lyrith was quiet for a long moment. When she spoke, her voice was different, stronger and more confident than Jake had ever heard it. I must tell you something, Jake Morrison. I have not been entirely truthful with you. Jake felt his stomach tighten. What do you mean? The frightened, weak princess you have seen, that is not who I really am. It was an act. Jake stared at her in shock. An act? Lyrith stood up, and suddenly her posture was completely different. Instead of the trembling, scared creature she had been, she stood tall and proud. Her purple eyes were sharp and intelligent. I am Princess Lyrith, but I am also General Lyrith, commander of the 3rd Imperial Fleet. I have won 15 major battles against our enemies. My father did not choose me because I was weak. He chose me because I am one of his best military leaders. Jake's mouth fell open. You're a general? In Zeltharian society, females are the warriors and leaders. Males handle domestic duties and childcare. When your people insisted on a marriage alliance with a male leader, my father knew he needed to send someone who could handle the real purpose of this alliance. Which is? Lyrith walked to the window and looked out at the stars. The marriage was never just about peace, Jake. It was about survival. The Korthak Empire has a fleet 3 times larger than anything either of our peoples can field alone. They will attack within 2 months. Jake felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. 2 months? My father sent me to evaluate your military capabilities and create a joint defense strategy. The Frightened Princess Act was meant to make you underestimate me, so I could observe your people without you trying to impress me or hide your weaknesses. But you were really scared of me at first, Jake said. That wasn't an act. Lyrith turned back to him, and for the first time she smiled. It transformed her face completely. Yes, that part was real. I truly believed humans ate their mates. I was terrified. But as a military leader, I have been trained to function even when afraid. Jake sat back in his chair, trying to process this information. The helpless princess he had been trying to protect was actually a battle-hardened general who could probably defeat him in combat without breaking a sweat. So what happens now? He asked. Now we plan for war, Lyrith said. But first I need to contact my ship and yours. We need to speak with both of our military leaders. An hour later, Jake and Lyrith stood on the bridge of the UES Harmony. The main screen showed Admiral Helen Cruz, the commander of the human fleet, and General Kethron, Lyrith second in command aboard the Zeltharian vessel. Admiral Cruz, Jake said. I need to inform you that our situation has changed significantly. Admiral Cruz was a tough woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been fighting battles in space for 30 years. Explain, Captain. Princess, Lyrith is actually General Lyrith, a military commander. The Korthak threat is more serious than we thought. General Kethron spoke from the Zeltharian ship. Admiral Cruz, we have intelligence that the Korthak Empire will attack both our territories in 63 days. They have assembled the largest fleet in galactic history. Amy Rodriguez, who was monitoring communications, suddenly looked up from her station. Captain, I'm intercepting Korthak transmissions. They're not encrypted. It's like they want us to hear them. Put it on speakers, Jake ordered. The bridge filled with harsh, guttural voices speaking in the Korthak language. The universal translator struggled with their dialect, but the meaning was clear enough. Human ships, weak, easy prey. Zeltharian forces, scattered, attack both. Total destruction, new empire. Admiral Cruz's face was grim. How many ships are we talking about, General Kethron? Our scouts report over 3,000 Korthak vessels. They have been building this fleet for 5 years, preparing for a war of conquest. Jake felt cold. The human fleet had maybe 500 ships. The Zeltharians had about the same number. Even together they were badly outnumbered. There is hope, Lyrith said, stepping forward. Separately, we cannot win. But together, we might have a chance. Korthak tactics rely on overwhelming force and fear. They have never faced a combined human-Zeltharian force. What are you proposing? Admiral Cruz asked. A true alliance, combined fleets, shared technology, joint tactics. Humans are known for their adaptability and creative thinking. Zeltharians are known for our strength and strategic planning. Together, we could create something neither species has ever seen before. Jake watched Lyrith as she spoke. This was not the terrified princess he had first met. This was a military genius who had been studying the problem of the Korthak threat for months. There's more, Lyrith continued. I have been analyzing human tactical reports for weeks. Your species does something that no other species in the galaxy does. What's that? Jake asked. You sacrifice yourselves for others. In every major human battle, there are records of individuals giving their lives to save their comrades or protect civilians. This behavior confuses other species, but it makes humans extremely effective in desperate situations. Admiral Cruz nodded slowly. The willingness to sacrifice for the greater good. It's what makes us human. It's also what makes you dangerous enemies, Lyrith said. The Korthaks expect their enemies to surrender when defeat seems certain. They do not expect enemies who will fight to the death to protect others. Jake was beginning to understand. You want to use human unpredictability and Zeltharian strategic thinking to create tactics the Korthaks can't anticipate. Exactly. But it will only work if our peoples truly trust each other. Which brings us back to the marriage alliance. Jake looked at Lyrith with new respect. She had been planning this entire conversation from the beginning. The scared princess act, the gradual building of trust, the revelation of her true identity. It had all been leading to this moment. Are you asking me to marry you for real now? Jake asked. Not just as a political arrangement, but as a true partnership? Lyrith was quiet for a moment. I am asking if you would be willing to lead this alliance with me, as equals, as partners. In war and perhaps in peace. Jake thought about everything that had happened over the past week. He had started by trying to comfort a terrified alien princess. Now he was being asked to co-command the largest military alliance in galactic history. But he also thought about the way Lyrith had gradually learned to trust him, how her fear had turned to curiosity and then to respect. He realized that somewhere along the way his own feelings had changed too. Yes, Jake said. I'll stand with you against the Korthaks, and I'll marry you. Not because our governments arranged it, but because I think we make a good team. Lyrith smiled again, that wonderful smile that transformed her entire face. Then, let us begin planning for war, husband. We have 63 days to prepare for the fight of our lives. As Jake looked around the bridge at his crew and the faces on the screen, he realized that everything had changed. The marriage alliance had become something real. The military partnership had become something personal. And in 63 days, they would find out if love and trust were stronger than fear and hatred. The wedding ceremony took place on the bridge of the UES Harmony, with Admiral Cruz performing the human ritual, and General Kethron conducting the Zeltharian bonding rites. But Jake Morrison and Princess Lyrith barely noticed the formal words. Their attention was focused on the tactical displays showing the approaching Korthak fleet. 3,000 enemy ships confirmed, reported Amy Rodriguez from her position at the communications station. They'll reach the border between human and Zeltharian space in 6 hours. Jake and Lyrith stood side by side, now wearing matching command insignia that combined human and Zeltharian symbols. They had spent the last 2 months planning for this moment, creating battle strategies that neither species could have developed alone. Status of the combined fleet? Lyrith asked. 800 human vessels and 750 Zeltharian ships all in position, replied Ben Carter. The new communication systems are working perfectly. Both fleets can coordinate in real time. Jake looked at the main screen which showed their united armada. Human ships were sleek and fast, built for speed and maneuverability. Zeltharian vessels were larger and more heavily armored, designed for direct combat. Together, they looked like nothing the galaxy had ever seen before. The Korthaks are broadcasting on all frequencies, Amy reported. They're demanding our immediate surrender. Put them on screen, Jake ordered. the bridge filled with the image of a massive insect-like creature. This was Emperor Vrackth of the Korthak Empire, his mandibles clicking as he spoke. "Inferior species," the Korthak leader hissed through the translator. "You face the might of 3,000 ships. Surrender now, and we will allow some of you to live as slaves." Jake stepped forward. "Emperor Vrackth, I am Captain Jake Morrison, of the United Humans Eltharian Alliance. We reject your demand for surrender." The alien's compound eyes fixed on Jake with obvious contempt. "Humans and Zeltharians working together? Impossible. You are natural enemies. This alliance is a lie." "Then you're about to learn how wrong you are," Lyreth said, moving to stand beside Jake. "I am General Lyreth, and I speak for both our peoples when I say we will fight to defend our freedom." Emperor Vrackth made a sound like angry buzzing. "You think your pathetic combined fleet can stand against us? We have overwhelming numbers, victory is certain." "Numbers aren't everything," Jake replied. "You're about to face something you've never encountered before, 2 species fighting as one." The transmission ended, and the Korthak fleet began its attack approach. Jake and Lyreth took their positions at the combined command station they had designed together. "Remember the plan," Lyreth said to both bridge crews. "Zeltharian ships provide the heavy defense and main battle line. Human ships use hit-and-run tactics to confuse and divide their forces. And if things go badly," Jake added, "we have the final strategy ready." The battle began with the Korthaks doing exactly what their intelligence had predicted. They formed massive attack groups, trying to overwhelm the Allied fleet with pure force. It was a strategy that had worked for them against every other species they had conquered, but it didn't work against the combined human-Zeltharian forces. When the Korthaks charged the Zeltharian battle line, expecting to break through with sheer numbers, they found the reptilian ships fighting with unprecedented coordination. Human vessels darted between the larger Zeltharian ships, providing covering fire and targeting specific weak points that Zeltharian sensors had identified. "They're confused," Amy reported, monitoring Korthak communications. "Their commanders are arguing. They've never seen tactics like this before." Jake watched the battle displays with satisfaction. Lyreth's strategic mind had anticipated the Korthak approach perfectly, while human adaptability allowed their forces to respond to changing conditions instantly. "Phase 2, Lyreth announced. "Begin the pincer movement." The combined fleet split into multiple groups, using Zeltharian strength to anchor defensive positions while human ships performed lightning-fast flanking maneuvers. The Korthaks found themselves surrounded and attacked from angles they hadn't expected, but the enemy fleet was still massive, and the Allies were taking heavy losses. "We've lost the cruiser Manchester," Ben reported grimly. "And the Zeltharian battleship Vextar is badly damaged." Jake felt his heart sink. They were fighting well, but the numbers were still against them. For every Korthak ship they destroyed, they lost one of their own. "It's time," Lyreth said quietly, looking at Jake. "The final strategy." Jake nodded. They had hoped it wouldn't come to this, but they had prepared for the possibility that conventional tactics wouldn't be enough. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison," Jake announced on the fleet-wide channel. He had been promoted to Admiral for this battle, as had Lyreth. "Prepare for Operation Unity." Operation Unity was the most desperate and dangerous plan they had developed. It required perfect coordination between human and Zeltharian forces, and it would put both Jake and Lyreth directly in harm's way. The plan was simple in concept but incredibly difficult to execute. The Allied fleet would appear to retreat, drawing the Korthaks into a pursuit formation. Then Jake and Lyreth, commanding a small group of the fastest ships from both species, would punch through the enemy fleet and attack the Korthak command, ship directly. "Beginning the false retreat," Lyreth announced. "All ships fall back according to plan." The combined fleet began withdrawing, and just as predicted, the Korthaks took the bait. Thinking they had won, the enemy ships broke formation to pursue the retreating allies. "Now," Jake shouted. 20 human fighters and 15 Zeltharian assault ships led by Jake and Lyreth in a specially modified vessel shot forward at maximum speed. They flew directly into the heart of the Korthak fleet, heading for Emperor Vrackth's massive command ship. "Incoming fire from all directions," Amy reported from their ship's tactical station. She had insisted on joining the assault team. Shields at 60% and falling. Jake piloted their ship through a maze of enemy fire while Lyrith coordinated the attack. Her strategic genius and his human intuition worked together perfectly, finding paths through the chaos that neither could have seen alone. There! Lyrith pointed to the enemy command ship. If we can take out their leader, the fleet will fall apart. Korthak society is based on absolute hierarchy. Jake pushed their ship to its limits, dodging energy blasts and missile salvos. Behind them, human and Zeltharian fighters worked together to clear a path, their pilots communicating in the new hybrid language they had developed for the Alliance. They reached the Korthak command ship and began their attack. But Emperor Vrakthe wasn't going down without a fight. The massive vessel turned its full firepower on the small Allied force. Shields failing, Ben reported. We're not going to make it. That's when Jake made the decision that would be remembered in both human and Zeltharian history. He turned their ship directly toward the command ship's bridge, putting all power to the engines. Jake, what are you doing? Lyrith asked. Something very human, Jake replied. I'm going to ram their bridge, get to the escape pods. No, Lyrith said firmly. We do this together, or not at all. Jake looked at her and saw the same determination in her purple eyes that had made her a general. Together, then. They flew their ship directly into the side of the Korthak command vessel. The explosion was visible from across the battlefield, and Emperor Vrakthe's ship began breaking apart. But Jake and Lyrith survived. At the last moment, their ship's emergency systems had activated, creating a protective bubble around the bridge. They crashed into the Korthak vessel's hangar bay, battered but alive. The effect on the Korthak fleet was immediate. Without their Emperor's commands, the disciplined attack formation fell apart. Korthak ships began fighting each other for leadership, and many simply fled the battlefield. This is Admiral Cruz, came the voice over their emergency communicator. The Korthak fleet is in full retreat. Repeat, the enemy is retreating. The Alliance has won. Jake and Lyrith sat in the wreckage of their ship, holding hands and looking at each other with amazement. We did it, Jake said. Yes, Lyrith replied. But more than that, we proved something important. What's that? That love and trust can overcome fear and hatred, that different species can work together, that understanding is more powerful than prejudice. 3 months later, Jake and Lyrith stood on the observation deck of the new Alliance headquarters, a massive space station built jointly by human and Zeltharian engineers. Below them, ships from both species worked together patrolling the galaxy and protecting other worlds from threats like the Korthaks. Do you ever think about how this all started? Jake asked, putting his arm around his wife. Lyrith laughed, the sound like musical chimes. You mean when I was terrified you were going to eat me? That seems like a lifetime ago. In a way it was. We're both different people now. I learned that humans can be gentle and caring. You learned that aliens can be trustworthy and brave. Jake smiled. And together we learned that the universe is a lot less scary when you have someone to face it with. They watched a group of human and Zeltharian children playing together in the station's park, their laughter echoing through the observation deck. The future looked bright for both species. So, Jake said, any regrets about marrying a monster who was supposed to eat you? Lyrith grinned.